All right, welcome back to WeAreSC's Arledge's 10 Questions. We have our two competitors here for the second week of the regular season. I can tell they're pumped up to play. You can see, look at their faces. You can tell how excited they are to do this. This means a lot. There's no money on the line. There would be pride on the line, but I'm not sure either guy has any pride at this point either. I don't know what's on the line, but we're going to try to avoid a Notre Dame level embarrassment is what we're trying to do. That's all we're up to.
You
Go
have
ahead,
Taylor, you have Taylor Swift tickets on the line.
Okay, well, I'm not buying them.
Neither am
Okay, guys, let's start with score 0-0, 10 questions, winner take all. Question number one. Is Notre Dame's embarrassing loss good for USC or bad for USC? I know it was fun, but was it good or bad for the Trojans? Mark Hawkins, start us off.
So it was good for the fans. I mean, like you said, Chris, it's fun to be able to make fun of them. It was almost a champagne Sunday, almost a perfect Sunday. USC won in convincing fashion. Notre Dame lost in convincing fashion. UCLA didn't play, so technically they didn't win. So yeah, it was good for the fans. If we're being pragmatic, it's bad for the team. You needed that marquee game. You want that marquee game at the end of the year to mean something. And, you know, as we talked about in our Inside the Trojan Huddle show this week, that Notre Dame loss really hurts their chances of being considered one of the preeminent teams in the country. So no, it doesn't help USC. It kind of weakens their schedule, so to speak, a little bit.
So Eric, is Mark right? Is this one of those things that's so much fun you can't wipe the smile off your face, but it's not really good for you? Maybe like, experimenting with hard drugs. Is that what this is? Is watching Notre Dame lose to NIU like experimenting with hard drugs?
It it is both. It is both. It is never as a USC fan, it is never a bad thing for Notre Dame to lose. I don't care what the game is.
Right.
You do lose a little bit if it's a bad Notre Dame team, but I'll tell you what, USC went to Notre Dame, what was that, 2007, and beat an incompetent Notre Dame team like 38-0. That was fun.
Still fun, yeah.
That was fun. That's fine. And USC's schedule, even though maybe it doesn't look as hard as it was, you're not fighting for the BCS final where it's only two teams. You're not even fighting for the 4-team playoff. You don't need Notre Dame to be good to go to the playoff. You're going to have a good enough schedule. You're going to have, if you win all those games, you're going to get to the Big Ten championship game. And you have the LSU win already. USC's non-conference schedule, even if Notre Dame loses 5 games before that one, it's still going to rank pretty well when you compare it to some of these other teams' non-conference things. So I started out by saying it's both, and throughout my answer, I've talked myself into, no, it's good. It's good.
Here's the voters too much. I don't. I'm sorry.
Well, look, here's the thing about the Irish. It's better for USC when Notre Dame is good and USC beats them. That's the truth, right? It's better for the rivalry. The rivalry is an important part of USC tradition. Beating them 38-0 in South Bend was fun. The next year when Notre Dame didn't get a first down at the Coliseum until the fourth quarter, also fun. But not as much fun as 2005, right? But here's the problem. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll watch a Notre Dame game and I'll think to myself before the game, it's probably better for us if Notre Dame wins this one. But I can't keep thinking that way throughout the game, right? As soon as the other team marches down the field and punches it in, I find myself cheering, even though before the game I thought it's probably better for Notre Dame to win. It never feels better inside. Inside, down in my heart, down in my soul, I always want Notre Dame to be embarrassed and to lose. So it felt really, really good. And I think Mark's right that a good Notre Dame is good for us overall. But this year it doesn't matter. If USC takes care of business, they're going to be in the playoff. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Thank you, Northern Illinois, for that gift that you gave to us, an unexpected gift. Okay. I liked both answers, but Eric's answer was right. This year it doesn't matter. It's better for us that they lose
Your
because
question wasn't specific to this year.
do
Whatever.
you think that score was
Whatever. I'm getting the Arledge treatment right off the bat. Let's go. Question number 2.
All right, question number 2. Which USC player is ready for a breakout game soon? Go ahead, Eric. You start us off.
I had a few in mind. I'm not going to give you a few because I respect the game. I respect the game and the rules too much to give you a few. I'm going to go defense, and I'm going to say Braylon Shelby. I know Anthony Lucas was a thought. I think Braylon Shelby has a couple sacks in him coming up here in the next 1 or 2 games. He's been close. I really like that thing they do on the defensive line where they slide him in a little bit and put a defensive end outside of him where he's kind of playing that 4-eye defensive end, defensive tackle look. And he has gotten into the backfield a couple times on that. I think he's due for a big one.
Braylon Shelby, that's a pretty good answer, Mark, don't you think?
Great answer. Not as good as mine, but
okay, good. What's your better answer?
I think it's got to be Zachariah Branch. I mean, I don't know. I won't say he was embarrassed with his performance against Utah State, but man, I can't wait to hear his response when he's asked the question, what happened? How did you drop that pass that you could have walked into the end zone? And you think about it, we're 2 games in, and the wide receivers have 2 touchdowns. One is Mekhi Lemon, the other one is Jacoby Lane. Zachariah Branch, freshman All-American, everything returner. He's even had some, I'll say, misjudgments on some punt returns where he hasn't really read the field right. Zachariah Branch is ready to explode. I mean, and unfortunately, I think Michigan is going to be the recipient of that.
Yeah. Braylon Shelby's a good answer. I would have taken Bear Alexander, also would have been an acceptable answer. But Mark is right. It's Zachariah Branch who is too good to be sitting where he is numbers wise right now, 2 games in. He's going to do something spectacular that's going to make the ESPN top 10. And I think Mark's right. I think it's probably going to be against Arizona. So Mark Culkin gets a point. It's 1-1. Okay, USC Michigan. This is one of the great uniform games in college football, right? I mean, those 2 uniforms on the field against each other. It's hard to get much better than that. Does it get better than that? Is there a better uniform game in college football than USC Michigan? What else could possibly be in the running? Mark Culkin.
Look, if we're talking strictly uniforms on the field, I'm not talking about the how good the teams are. I love when USC and UCLA are wearing their home jerseys. It just looks right. 2 different shades of gold. You got the Cardinal, you got the blue. And if I can't have that, give me USC versus Notre Dame. That's, I mean, if we're talking about blue blood on blue blood after USC versus Michigan, I think it's USC versus Notre Dame.
Those are good answers, Eric. Good answers. What do you got?
I got that I wanted to go first because he's right. We're spoiled. We're spoiled that the USC, UCLA, there's a reason that they push to both wear the home uniforms. Those 2 on the field are the best uniform combination in college football. If I have to pick one that's not, it doesn't involve USC. Look, last year you had Alabama at Michigan, or Alabama playing Michigan in the Rose Bowl. That does it. That's a pretty good one too. But no, we're spoiled in both USC, UCLA, and USC Notre Dame as being two really good ones.
It's really too bad that USC and Michigan can't both wear their home uniforms this week. I mean, the colors obviously don't clash. You could play that game and people would know who's on which team. Because I like USC's away uniforms, but USC's home uniforms are spectacular. Michigan's home uniforms are spectacular. Notre Dame's home uniforms are spectacular. anytime you get any of those three teams playing against another blue blood, I'm pleased. So yeah, all good answers. Look, Notre Dame at home against Michigan, that's pretty great too when that happens. Hey Mark, you just got your second point. All right, so you can stop whining.
Hey,
I'm
you know what?
calling this one honestly.
In those first three questions, you said Mark is right 3 times. Yet I only have 2 points. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you should just stop saying because those points can go as fast as they came. All right, question number 4. What has surprised you most about the 2024 season so far? Eric, I think you're up, right?
Yeah, the I don't want to go on the defensive side because while there is a little surprise that they've been this good, it might be on you if you didn't listen to the coaches and players, which again was understandable, but they sort of talked about that they were going to be this good. So I don't know if that's the biggest surprise. It is a little surprise. The biggest surprise to me is on offense, and it's red zone touchdown percentage. Again, you're just through 2 games. No panic for anything yet in any situation. But Lincoln Riley's offenses score touchdowns in the red zone. I mean, all the time. The last 2 years, USC was 10th last year, 3rd the year before in touchdown percentage. They're at 61% this year. They were 75% last year, and that's closer to the 2021 percentage than this one. So again, through 2 games, the inability to just push it into the end zone for touchdowns in the red zone has been surprising.
So, Mark, Eric gets a chance to answer a question and he immediately goes negative, right? You heard that.
I heard it.
I mean, I don't know what to do with the guy sometimes. What is your answer? Do you have another nervous Nelly answer like he did, or do you have something positive for us?
I'm going to take a negative. I'm going to turn it into a positive.
All right, let's do it.
USC's third down defense. Did anybody think you would look at them saying, all right, USC's facing a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 15. Let's move the markers because that was what was going to happen. They haven't given up a first down yet on anything 3rd and long. That is really surprising just on the USC level. On a more holistic level across the country, how bad is the quarterback play? I mean, it's terrible. In fact, I think that might be the biggest surprise to me in college football is how bad the quarterback play is. And it's at places where you think, you know what, those guys should have quarterbacks waiting in the wings, and they just don't.
Like Michigan and Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm torn here, Mark, because I liked both of your answers, but you did give 2 answers. I don't, I'm not sure what I do with that. Why don't you tell me what I should do with that? Should I give you a point?
I'll take the second part of my answer where the quarterback play in this country is terrible.
Okay, you got a point. It's 3-1 Mark Culkin. All right, what team is primed for a spectacular collapse? Mark, go.
I think we've already seen it start. Texas kind of chipped away a little bit at Michigan. If USC performs in Ann Arbor like they've done their first 2 weeks, as you said earlier in the Trojan Huddle episode, Michigan's set for 7-5, 6-6. They're going to struggle. And it's because they don't have a quarterback. They're terrible.
And they're not so good up front that they can just run the football consistently. They can't. I mean, it's.
You saw what happened when they had to rotate for Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. Texas just said, "Oh boy, watch what we're going to do now."
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably true. Eric, you have somebody else in mind?
Yeah, it's Oklahoma.
Yeah.
They just snuck by a Houston team at home that got blasted by UNLV. Tulane maybe gives them a game this weekend, and then Tennessee, Texas, South Carolina is not a pushover. Ole Miss, we don't know everything about Missouri, but they've got to go to Missouri, and then Alabama, LSU. I mean, Maine, right? Like get Oklahoma to Maine at this point. That looks like the winnable game left.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's going to lose 7 games this year. And it wasn't just, look, they were terrible against a Houston team that had gotten their doors blown off of them by somebody the week before. But, Oklahoma against a mediocre Houston team was at around 4 yards per play offensively. And you think, well, okay, but that's just one game. But it's not one game, because if you go back to the Temple game, they were around 5 yards per play passing. They have no passing offense at all. I don't think they're very good up front. I think defensively they're not bad, but they are going to get their doors blown off of them when they start to play this schedule. Their schedule is horrific. And Eric just read off those teams. I mean, they're going to have a hard time winning any of those games. Oklahoma's headed to 5-7. By the way, Oklahoma fans, if you're still watching us, and I know that it comes and goes, right? When USC loses, you come and watch us. When USC wins, you don't. You probably have also seen your team play this year, and you realize that your team's not very good. Now, you're Oklahoma fans, so you're delusional. So you may still think your team is good. They're not. Your team's lousy. I said it before the season that as much nonsense as USC has taken from OU fans, that their program is by no means in better shape than USC's. I was right. Just watch how this plays out. Trojans are going to the playoff. You guys are going 5-7. Enjoy that. You deserve it. Okay, because Eric McKinney gave me an opportunity to launch into a tirade against OU fans, which is always one of my favorite things to do, he gets the point. It's 3-2. Guys, this is a really interesting question, and I don't know what the answer is, but is there anything more exciting to do in LA on a Saturday than go to UCLA, Indiana? What do you think? Who's up? Mark, are you up?
I think I'm up. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to do my neighbor a solid. I'm going to walk over there and pick up the dog poo for him, and then I'm going to take a nap. I can't think of a better way to spend my Saturday afternoon. Driving to the Rose Bowl, driving out of the Rose Bowl, one way in, one way out, and I'm going to be watching a bad product. I'm not going to waste my time doing that. I'd rather
But
be
you're missing something, Mark.
I'd
The
rather
drive in and the drive out will be very, very easy this weekend.
still had to waste my time watching 3 hours of bad product on the field.
Fair point. So Mark is choosing dog poop over UCLA football. That seems reasonable. Eric McKinney, can you think of anything more exciting to do in LA on a Saturday than that game?
Yeah. So I live in Northeast LA. So going over to the west side and the beaches is like a full day excursion in traffic. So yeah, sitting in that on the way there, getting somewhere between first and second degree sunburn, and then in traffic on the way back home, that seems fine.
You don't look like a guy that would get burned, McKinney. That strikes me as pretty implausible.
Oh, you got some pretty dark melanin in your skin, Eric.
I'd bring out the big guns to avoid avoid being at the Rose Bowl.
Is that what you call your arms now, the big guns?
It's exactly, yes. Thank you. Point right. Can I give points for this? Point to Chris.
All right, you both get a point. Look, UCLA Indiana sounds awful, but you know what's great about it? You know that they're going to have an attendance less than 20,000 people. I don't know what lie they'll tell about the attendance, but you know what's going to happen is Saturday night, all over the internet are going to be these pictures of the Rose Bowl, and with few enough attendees that you can actually count them out. And then maybe if you're lucky, you can watch that and then listen to John Foster's press conference, which probably will be very moving. Okay, the score is 4-3, Mark Culkin. All right, what movie quote should Dan Lanning have to open up his next press conference with in light of Oregon's level of play this year? What movie quote really captures what we're seeing from Oregon so far? Eric McKinney.
I went a different way than capturing what we've seen. It's more the look forward for him. And it's a disheveled, sort of sweaty, crazy-eyed Dan Lanning screaming, "Show me the money," into the mic, as that's seemingly the best way to save the roster and the season and all of that. That's what they're going to throw at it.
Look, it helps to have a New York Yankees payroll, right? I mean, Just imagine what they would be doing if they had like the fourth or fifth best roster in the Big Ten right now. They'd be 0-2. Mark, do you have a movie quote for Dan Lanning at his next press conference?
I think if the Oregon Ducks were an actual character in a movie, we could call them Ron Burgundy from The Anchorman. I can see Dan Lanning coming in for his press conference and say, hey, I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal. And that's how Oregon kind of presents themselves preseason.
I never thought that before, but I do like the Dan Lanning, Ron Burgundy analysis there. Not really knowing what you're doing, but quite sure of yourself, and you have a plum job assignment. I like that. Okay, Mark, you got a point. 5-3. Hey, you're playing well today. Congratulations on that.
Breaking out
All
the
right,
big gun. Breaking out the big guns.
No, Big Guns is the other guy in the show. All right. Who is the most overrated team in college football right now? Tolkien.
How is it not Oregon? How is it not the Oregon Ducks? I mean, I could say Penn State. Eric made the case that they had a letdown game against Bowling Green. Oregon hasn't had a good game yet. I mean, they struggled to beat Idaho. One of their players was, I think, subconsciously just picked up the ball as it crossed the goal line, even though the returner dropped it before he got there. This team they're overrated, period. I don't know why they're ahead of USC in the polls.
You know how much that answer warms my heart, Eric. Do you have an answer that can beat it?
No, I'll have to get tricky with how we do it. But so if I had to give something other than just trying to go for the tie, even though I know how this game's played. Mark answered first, so he'd get the point if I go with Oregon. So Missouri is the other answer. They played, I think, two teams last year, lost to them both, and they're riding a lot of we beat Ohio State's cheerleaders in the Cotton Bowl when Ohio State had, I don't know, 6 guys suit up for that one and no quarterbacks. So the fact they're still up there, I don't know how deserving they are of it, but they've played 2 games and haven't given up a point yet. They've played nobody, but they haven't given up a point. So they can point to, we've done something on this year's schedule. Oregon is still pointing to, but what about our offseason? We got these guys. If you look at the 2 games and just what teams have done on the field, they're 22. They're unranked. I mean, again, it's all just a guess on, we think they're going to be okay, but when you have a chance to play your way up there, you have to start from scratch as soon as you start seeing stuff on the field. You can't just say, well, we think they're going to figure it out, because then you can do this 5 or 6 more weeks and stay up there. So no, it's based on the rankings right now. Yeah, Oregon has done nothing to be in the top 10, in the top 15 or 20.
So everything you said is true. I thought you were going to go with Mizzou, but then you kind of backed away from Mizzou because you didn't feel good about the answer. And then you went ahead and grabbed Mark's answer, which is fine. You have every right to do that. It's your game, but it's Mark's point. One of the benefits of going first is you get the best answer. And look, if you get a chance to trash Oregon, I'm going to fall for that every time, but especially right now where the answer happens to be true. I do think Oregon will be okay this year. I really do. I think they're gonna figure it out. I think Oregon by the end of the year would probably beat Mizzou by 2 touchdowns, but it's hard to know because Mizzou never plays anybody. So at some point they're going to have to, but I think it's going to be for a long time from now. Okay, 6-3, McKinney. The last question will still be a 2-point question, so you've got a shot for a tie, but that's really all you have, and there's no overtime. So question number 9. How do we feel about the fan turnout for USC's opener? Good turnout, bad turnout? Eric?
It was great. It was a great turnout for what USC was battling against. A nothing team at 8 o'clock at night in 5,000-degree weather. To get that many fans out and have it be like loud early on and all of that, I thought it was great. Lincoln Riley has struck me as someone who is trying to will the atmosphere to happen by talking about how great it is and how excited they are to have the Coliseum full. And we're there and we look around and it's like, it's okay. But he stayed positive about it and he stayed upbeat about what it's going to feel like and what it's going to be like. And I can appreciate that. I think he willed a little bit of that to happen, and we saw it start to happen there. If they get a win against Michigan, we could see a bunch of sellouts in this one. But yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised with how many people came out for that one.
What do you think, Mark?
No, I absolutely. I mean, he nailed it. The announced attendance was 68,110. But again, you're going up against an 8 p.m. kickoff. You're going up against the sun playing a major role. I mean, it was hotter than the surface of the sun that day. It was blazing hot.
I think that's scientifically impossible.
Well, it was close.
That's the only source of heat, and it's coming from a long way away. I just don't believe it.
Chris.
But
You
okay.
weren't there. You weren't there. It was close. And again, considering the opponent, for USC fans to show up in mass like that, absolutely. Whether Lincoln Riley had some effect with it, I don't care. USC leaves Ann Arbor with a win, 3-0. They're going to be a top 10 team. Yeah, the Coliseum is going to be packed for that next home game, without a doubt. It will be sold out. That's how USC fans react.
Yeah. Yeah, look, when USC fans, when USC fans are excited, when LA is excited about USC football, you're going to have good turnouts. But it's not Nebraska. You're not going to sell out the place just because you open the doors. That's not how USC works. It never is how USC is going to work. And USC's really and Lincoln's really shot himself in the foot when it comes to fan support the last 2 years by tolerating Gritch. Now that he's putting a product on the field that is more in line with what USC fans hoped they would see when he was hired, you're gonna have a lot of people showing up. It doesn't hurt that all these Big Ten fan bases are gonna come out too, because they're gonna take up the remaining seats. Utah State doesn't travel exactly, but Wisconsin and Nebraska and Penn State, they're gonna travel. So that the stadium is gonna be full on a pretty consistent basis, I suspect, and that will be fun. Mark said that Eric nailed it, so he got the point. It's 6-4. We're going into the last question. It's a 2-point question, and it's an important one. I don't know if people in South Bend will be listening to our suggestions, but they might be. We might be able to have an impact on college football history. I know this. Notre Dame fans are now ready to fire Marcus Freeman. It's not going to happen right now, but they're ready to after what they saw Saturday. After three gigantic upsets at home in a little over 2 years. So who would you guys like to see as the next Notre Dame head coach? Mark Holken, who would you like to see roaming the sidelines in South Bend for the Irish?
Yeah, I'm just going to put Eric out of his misery early here with the answer. So as much as I would like to see Dan Lanning coaching that team next, just because watching him have to answer for losing to USC would be comedy gold. The correct answer is, once Luke Fickell helps Alex Grinch resurrect his career, that's Notre Dame's next head coach.
Oh, Alex Grinch?
Yeah.
I'd feel pretty good about that. I'm not going to lie to you. Eric, do you have a better answer than Alex Grinch?
I assumed I'd have to come up with a different answer than Clay Helton. No, Mark's gonna leave that out there.
He's gonna leave it for you.
So that's the answer. The other one, and I understand I'm risking throwing the game away here because I should have just said Clay Helton and gotten out. Having Brian Kelly go back to Notre Dame would, now that USC is put together and that he can't coach against the 2010s insane chaos of USC having a different coach every 8 minutes, and the first couple years of Lincoln Riley's building process here, that LSU press conference was pretty fun after that one. Seeing that kind of year after year with him back at Notre Dame would be fun too.
See, I don't know that he could go back because it's not a natural fit for him. You saw a natural fit for him when he went to Louisiana. He was able to start speaking the way he had always wanted to speak with that deep Cajun accent. He started doing dance videos. That's the kind of stuff you can't do at straight-laced Notre Dame. And if you're going to bring back a former Notre Dame coach, that ain't the guy, gentlemen. If you're going to bring back a former Notre Dame coach, it's got to be Charlie, right? It's got to be Charlie. I do think Clay Helton is a solid answer. I mean, a really good answer. I don't know that if they hired Clay Helton, I don't know that I'd be able to stop laughing for probably 6 months. I'd probably die just from the nonstop laughter. But I was also thinking, what if you just pick somebody from the Clay Helton coaching tree? Somebody who's a top-notch quarterback developer, somebody who can really get that offense going. I think Graham Harrell should be the next head coach at Notre Dame. I think he'd be a fantastic fit.
You get to cover the press conferences, Chris. That's a lot of words with nothing said. I'm telling you, that's all on you.
If Graham Harrell were the head coach at Notre Dame, I would gladly handle the press conferences, guys. That would be no problem. By the way, if they brought Charlie Weiss back, do you think they would? That might save them money because they're probably still paying him, aren't they? I don't know that they'd have to pay any more money. They'd be able to save a few million a year.
Didn't even think about that angle.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here. So if the Notre Dame who is it? Oh, it's Bavacqua, the new Notre Dame AD. He's not Kurt Bavacqua.
I know.
All right. You know what? You'll both get 1 point. You'll split the answer. Mark Culkin with a big victory today. That should get your fans off my back for 1 week, which is all I really wanted. Any wisdom you want to share with the people before we leave, guys? This is your last chance. I mean, one of these times you guys are going to say something insightful. What do you got?
Not this time.
Yeah, USC is good. USC is playing good football again on the defensive side of the ball. Everybody should appreciate that. Don't be a bandwagon. Get out to the Coliseum. Don't start complaining on the WeAreSC.com website because you can't buy tickets because you waited too long. Game time's there for you if you need it, but I don't want to hear it.
I'm going to be at the next game at the Coliseum. I'm making the trip. My trip is probably farther than yours. So, yeah, let's get up to the Coliseum. It'll be fun. Okay, good game. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Enjoy the bye week. Enjoy the rest. Enjoy what's going to happen to Michigan. We'll cover that next week. And until then, fight on, everybody.